You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. Marcus Aurelius. Marcus Aurelius was a Roman emperor and Stoic philosopher known for his personal writings on discipline, self-mastery, and inner resilience. Some people spend their entire lives surrounded by information, yet they never truly think. They scroll endlessly. They react emotionally. They repeat opinions they never examined. They speak loudly about things they barely understand. But the Stoics believed the strongest mind is not the loudest mind. The strongest mind is the deepest one. Deep research is more than reading books. It is the ability to think carefully, observe patiently, question honestly, and understand life beneath the surface. And in a world addicted to speed, developing a deep mind becomes a superpower. If you want wisdom that lasts longer than trends, subscribe to Wisdom Without Noise for more timeless lessons inspired by Stoic philosophy. 1. Stop consuming everything. Most people damage their minds without realizing it. Every day they consume endless videos, arguments, gossip, headlines, opinions, and distractions. Their mind becomes crowded. And when the mind is crowded, deep thought becomes impossible. The Stoics believed clarity comes from discipline, not from excess. Deep research begins when you stop feeding your brain random noise. A young student once wanted to become wise. He bought dozens of books, watched endless lectures, saved thousands of posts. But months later, he felt more confused than before. One day, his mentor asked him a simple question. How much of what you consume do you actually think about? The student had no answer. That was the moment he realized information is not wisdom. Wisdom comes when knowledge is processed slowly. Most people consume information the same way people eat junk food. Quickly, mindlessly, constantly. But the Stoic mind chooses carefully. Your brain becomes powerful when you stop giving attention to everything. Not every argument deserves your response. Not every trend deserves your attention. Not every opinion deserves space in your mind. Deep thinkers protect their focus. When Marcus Aurelius wrote in his journal at night, he was not trying to impress anyone. He was trying to understand himself. That is the beginning of mental depth. You cannot hear your own thoughts if the world is always screaming into your ears. So begin here. Reduce noise. Sit with silence. Read fewer things more deeply. Think longer. The mind grows stronger when it learns to slow down. 2. Learn to sit alone with your thoughts. Modern people fear silence. The moment they are alone, they reach for their phone. Music, messages, entertainment, anything to avoid being alone with themselves. But the Stoics trained themselves in solitude. Because solitude reveals the truth. A man once worked in a busy city office. Every second of his life was filled with distractions. He woke up checking notifications. He slept with videos playing in the background. One weekend, his phone stopped working. At first he panicked. Then he became restless. Then uncomfortable. But by the second day, something changed. He noticed thoughts he had been avoiding. Questions he had buried. Dreams he had forgotten. For the first time in years, he could hear himself think. That silence changed his life. Deep research is not only about studying the world. It is about studying your own mind. Stoicism teaches that wisdom begins with self-awareness. If you cannot sit quietly with your thoughts for 30 minutes, your mind is being controlled by external stimulation. A deep thinker does not run from silence. He uses it. Some of the greatest ideas in history were born in quiet moments. Not during chaos. Not during endless entertainment. When you sit alone long enough, patterns begin to appear. You notice your fears, your weaknesses, your habits, your emotional triggers. And once you become aware of them, you can begin mastering them. The Stoics believed an unexamined mind becomes a dangerous master. So create moments of silence. Walk without headphones sometimes. Write your thoughts down. Spend time away from constant stimulation. Because the deeper your relationship with your own mind becomes, the wiser your decisions become. 3. Read slowly instead of quickly. Many people read just to finish books. Stoics read to transform themselves. There is a difference. A man once bragged that he had read over 100 books in a year. People were impressed. But when someone asked him what changed in his life because of those books, he could not answer. Another man read only 5 books that same year. But he studied every page carefully. He reflected deeply. He applied the lessons. Years later, his life was completely different. Deep research is not speed reading. It is careful thinking. Seneca once warned against jumping endlessly from one book to another. He believed a restless mind collects information without absorbing wisdom. Modern culture praises speed. Fast videos. Fast opinions. Fast learning. But the deepest truths require patience. When you read slowly, your mind begins asking questions. You connect ideas. You challenge assumptions. You notice details others miss. That is how intellectual depth is developed. Instead of asking, "How many books can I finish?" ask, "How deeply can I understand this idea?" Read with a pen nearby. Pause often. Think about what the author truly means. Ask whether the idea applies to your own life. The Stoics were not interested in sounding intelligent. They wanted practical wisdom. A single sentence deeply understood can change your life more than an entire library quickly forgotten. Depth always beats speed. 4. Question everything carefully. Most people inherit beliefs without examining them. They repeat what society tells them. What social media tells them. What friends tell them. What fear tells them. But Stoicism teaches independent thinking. A young man once believed success meant impressing others. So he worked endlessly for status. Expensive clothes. Fancy lifestyle. Public validation. Yet despite all of it, he remained unhappy. One evening, he asked himself a painful question. Do I actually want this life, or was I taught to want it? That question changed everything. Deep research means questioning your assumptions. Why do you believe what you believe? Why do certain things trigger emotional reactions in you? Why do you fear rejection? Why do you chase approval? Most people never ask these questions. The Stoics constantly examined their thoughts. They understood that many human problems come from false beliefs. If you believe criticism destroys your value, you will fear criticism. If you believe failure defines your identity, you will fear failure. But when you question those beliefs deeply, you discover freedom. Research is not just gathering information. It is learning how to think critically. A deep mind does not blindly accept ideas. It examines them calmly. This does not mean becoming cynical. It means becoming conscious. Every belief shaping your life should be tested. Because once you learn to question carefully, you stop living automatically. And that is when wisdom begins. 5. Train your attention like a muscle. Your attention is your greatest mental weapon. And today, it is constantly under attack. Every app wants your focus. Every notification wants your emotion. Every headline wants your reaction. But the Stoics understood something powerful. Whatever controls your attention controls your life. A young writer once struggled to focus. Every few minutes he checked his phone. His mind felt weak and scattered. Then he decided to train his attention deliberately. For 1 hour each day, he removed every distraction. No notifications. No music. No multitasking. At first it felt painful. His mind wanted stimulation constantly. But after several weeks, something changed. His concentration became sharper. His thoughts became clearer. His creativity improved. He realized focus is not something you find. It is something you build. Deep research requires sustained attention. You cannot understand complex ideas with a distracted mind. Most people read while checking messages. Watch videos while scrolling. Think while being interrupted. Then they wonder why their minds feel exhausted. The Stoics practiced mental discipline. They learned to direct their minds intentionally. Every time you resist distraction, you strengthen your ability to think deeply. And in a distracted world, deep focus becomes rare power. Protect your attention. Because once your attention becomes disciplined, your mind becomes dangerous in the best possible way. 6. Study human nature. The Stoics were obsessed with understanding human behavior. Why people become angry. Why they lie. Why they fear. Why they envy. Why they suffer. Because once you understand human nature, life becomes easier to navigate. A businessman once kept getting disappointed by people. He trusted too quickly. Expected perfection. Assumed everyone thought logically. As a result, he constantly felt betrayed. An older mentor told him, "You suffer because you study business more than human nature." That sentence stayed with him. He began observing people carefully. Not with judgment, but with awareness. He noticed how fear shaped decisions. How ego created conflict. How insecurity caused arrogance. And slowly, he stopped taking everything personally. Deep research includes studying the patterns of human behavior. The Stoics believed most people are controlled by emotion without realizing it. Anger. Fear. Desire. Jealousy. These emotions influence decisions constantly. When you understand this, you stop expecting perfect behavior from imperfect people. You become calmer, wiser, less reactive. A deep mind does not just memorize facts. It understands people. And understanding people is one of the greatest forms of intelligence. 7. Write down what you learn. Thoughts become clearer when written. That is why many Stoics kept journals. Marcus Aurelius never intended for the world to read his writings. His journal was a tool for self-examination. Writing forces the mind to slow down. A university student once believed he understood everything he studied. But when he tried explaining it on paper, he became confused. That was the moment he realized. If you cannot explain an idea clearly, you do not truly understand it. Deep research requires reflection. And writing is one of the best forms of reflection. When you write your thoughts, patterns become visible. Contradictions appear. Insights develop. You begin thinking more precisely. Most people carry vague thoughts. Deep thinkers clarify them. Start writing after reading. Write after conversations. Write after emotional experiences. Ask yourself, what did I learn? Why did this affect me? What truth did I discover? Over time, your journal becomes a map of your intellectual growth. The Stoics believed wisdom is built through daily examination. Writing helps turn information into understanding. And understanding changes lives. 8. Stop fearing complexity. Many people avoid difficult ideas. The moment something feels complicated, they quit. But deep thinkers understand complexity is part of growth. A young man once tried learning philosophy. At first, the concepts confused him. He felt unintelligent. He almost gave up. But instead of quitting, he stayed patient. He reread difficult sections. Took notes. Asked questions. Months later, the ideas that once seemed impossible became clear. His mind had expanded. This is important. Your brain grows when challenged. The Stoics did not seek comfort. They sought truth. And truth is not always simple. Deep research requires patience with complexity. At first, your mind may resist difficult thinking. That is normal. But every time you stay with a hard problem instead of escaping it, you become mentally stronger. Do not confuse confusion with failure. Sometimes confusion means your mind is evolving. The people with the deepest understanding are usually the people who stayed patient long enough to wrestle with difficult ideas. So stop expecting instant understanding. Growth takes time. 9. Observe life like a philosopher. Stoicism is not just theory. It is observation. The Stoics studied everyday life carefully. A philosopher once watched two men receive criticism. One became furious, defensive, aggressive. The other listened calmly, reflected quietly, moved on peacefully. The philosopher realized something powerful. The event was the same. Only the interpretation was different. This insight became central to Stoic philosophy. Events themselves are not always the problem. Our judgments about them often create suffering. Deep research means observing life beneath appearances. Pay attention to patterns. Notice how anger spreads. Notice how fear manipulates crowds. Notice how people behave differently when praised or criticized. Life itself becomes your classroom. Most people move through life unconsciously. Deep thinkers observe carefully. The Stoics believed wisdom exists everywhere for those willing to pay attention. Every failure teaches. Every conflict reveals human nature. Every difficult moment exposes character. Observation sharpens intelligence. And the more deeply you observe life, the less easily you are deceived by appearances. 10. Learn to think before reacting. Most people react emotionally before thinking logically. That is why small problems become disasters. A man once received an insulting message online. Immediately, rage filled his mind. He typed an angry response. But before sending it, he remembered a Stoic principle. Pause. So he stepped away for 10 minutes. When he returned, his emotions had cooled. He realized the argument was meaningless. That pause saved him from unnecessary conflict. Deep minds create space between emotion and reaction. The Stoics understood emotions are natural. But they also understood emotions should not control decisions. Research requires calm thinking. If anger controls your mind, your judgment becomes distorted. If fear controls your mind, your reasoning becomes weak. The ability to pause is intellectual power. In modern life, people are trained to react instantly. Comment instantly. Judge instantly. Attack instantly. But wisdom moves slower. A thoughtful mind asks, is this true? Is this useful? Is this worth my energy? That pause changes everything. Because once you learn to think before reacting, your mind becomes steady. And the steady mind sees clearly. 11. Build mental endurance. Deep thinking is exhausting. Most people avoid it because it requires effort. It is easier to consume entertainment than analyze ideas. Easier to follow crowds than think independently. But mental endurance can be trained. A law student once struggled to study for long periods. After 20 minutes, he became restless. Distracted. Mentally tired. Instead of giving up, he increased his focus gradually. 30 minutes. Then 45. Then 1 hour. Months later, he could study deeply for long periods without mental exhaustion. His mind became stronger through repetition. The Stoics understood discipline creates strength. Your brain adapts to what you repeatedly demand from it. If you constantly seek distraction, your attention weakens. If you constantly challenge your mind, your thinking deepens. Deep research requires endurance. Sometimes understanding takes hours, days, even years. But those willing to stay patient gain insights others never reach. Mental endurance separates shallow thinkers from deep thinkers. And in a world filled with mental laziness, endurance becomes rare power. 12. Accept that you do not know everything. One of the greatest signs of intelligence is humility. Deep thinkers understand how much they still do not know. A successful professor once attended a lecture outside his field. As he listened, he realized how limited his knowledge truly was. Instead of feeling embarrassed, he felt curious. That curiosity kept his mind alive. The Stoics believed arrogance blocks wisdom. The moment you believe you already know everything, growth stops. Deep research requires intellectual humility. Be willing to admit mistakes. Be willing to change your mind. Be willing to learn from unexpected people. A shallow mind wants to appear intelligent. A deep mind wants to become intelligent. There is a difference. Socrates became famous partly because he admitted his own ignorance. That honesty opened the door to deeper understanding. The wisest people ask the best questions. And they continue learning throughout life. Never let pride make your mind rigid. Because rigid minds break easily. Flexible minds grow endlessly. 13. Protect your inner world. The Stoics understood that external chaos should not control internal peace. A man once spent hours every day arguing online. Politics. Drama. Outrage. Conflict. Slowly, his mind became bitter. Restless. Exhausted. One day, he realized something disturbing. The world outside had entered his mind. From that moment forward, he became selective about what he allowed into his attention. His peace returned. Deep research is impossible when your inner world is constantly polluted. Your mind is like soil. Whatever you plant repeatedly begins to grow. If you constantly consume anger, anger grows. If you constantly consume fear, fear grows. The Stoics trained themselves to guard their inner state carefully. Not because they ignored reality, but because they understood mental clarity matters. Protect your peace. Protect your focus. Protect your emotional energy. Not every battle deserves your participation. Sometimes wisdom means walking away from noise. Because a calm mind thinks more deeply than a chaotic one. 14. Use difficulty to sharpen your mind. The Stoics believed adversity strengthens character. A blacksmith uses fire to strengthen steel. Life uses difficulty to strengthen the mind. A young entrepreneur once failed publicly. He lost money. Lost confidence. Felt humiliated. At first, he saw the experience as destruction. But over time, he began studying his mistakes carefully. He learned about human psychology, decision-making, discipline, patience. Years later, he realized failure taught him more than success ever could. Deep thinkers use hardship as research. Every painful experience contains lessons. The Stoics asked, "What is this difficulty trying to teach me?" That question transforms suffering into growth. Most people become bitter through adversity. Wise people become sharper. Challenges reveal weaknesses in thinking. Weak discipline. Poor emotional control. False assumptions. And once weaknesses become visible, improvement becomes possible. Do not waste pain. Study it. Learn from it. Grow through it. Because the deepest minds are often shaped by the hardest experiences. 15. Master the art of reflection. Many people experience life. Few reflect on it. Without reflection, mistakes repeat endlessly. A soldier once returned home after years of conflict. Every night he spent time thinking about his actions, decisions, and emotions. Slowly, he began understanding himself more clearly. His reflection helped him grow wiser instead of remaining trapped in regret. The Stoics practiced daily reflection. At night, Seneca asked himself questions like, "What weakness did I overcome today? What mistake did I make? What did I do well?" Reflection transforms experience into wisdom. Without reflection, life passes without understanding. Deep research is not only external. It is internal. Examine your habits, your fears, your reactions, your patterns. A reflective person evolves constantly. Most people repeat the same year of life over and over. Reflection breaks that cycle. Because when you study yourself honestly, growth becomes unavoidable. Conclusion. The Stoics understood something modern society often forgets. A powerful mind is not built through endless stimulation. It is built through discipline, reflection, patience, and deep thought. The world rewards shallow attention. But history remembers deep thinkers. Every moment you choose silence over noise, reflection over reaction, wisdom over distraction, you strengthen your mind. Deep research is not only about learning more. It is about becoming more aware, more thoughtful, more disciplined, more peaceful. Because the deepest minds are rarely the loudest. They are the calmest. They observe carefully, think deeply, speak intentionally, and live wisely. If this video helped you see the power of deep thinking differently, subscribe to Wisdom Without Noise for more timeless Stoic lessons that strengthen the mind and sharpen the soul. And remember, the quality of your mind shapes the quality of your life.